Hey everybody, it's Christina Holloway here. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about how to work for a boss who is a perfectionist. We're going to look at 3 different ways perfectionism can play out in the workplace, and I'm going to share 3 techniques that you can implement for yourself that will help you deal with a boss who is a perfectionist, particularly if that perfectionism is directed specifically at you. Real quick, if you enjoy this content and want to learn more about how to succeed in your career, make sure to follow my channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video from me. I'd appreciate it. All right, so let's get started. First, dealing with a boss who is a perfectionist will surface very quickly. You'll realize right away that this person isn't easy to please and always has feedback for you. This is really just a person who thinks they have high standards, but the reality is that typically a perfectionist boss is redirecting their perfectionism into areas or details that really aren't relevant to the success of the project, the deliverable, or the goal. This is where they miss the point, and it's where you can get very frustrated. So let's look at the 3 ways perfectionism can show up. I'm referencing a great article here, which I'll link down below, from Harvard Business Review. The author is Emily Kleszewski, and she has a great perspective in how perfectionism appears in the workplace. Now, she talks about perfectionism as lemons. But I'm going to leave that analogy to her. It's a great article. So here's how it looks. Number 1, perfectionism through reflection. This is a person who believes that they have high standards. They tend to be the ones who always delay deliverables because the finished product could always use tweaking. They are their own worst enemy. Usually their behavior doesn't have a big impact on the success or progress of other people, as their perfectionism is directed inwards toward themselves. They struggle internally with being confident with their own contributions to deliverables and projects that they constantly reflect to peers and supervisors that they could have done better with more time. Number 2, perfectionism through projection. This is a person who fundamentally believes that other people around them expect the highest standards of accomplishment from them. They'll go out of their way to do the most superior work and push themselves to do the most possible because they believe deeply that the others around them expect that of them. Again, these people tend to be their own worst enemy because they've set a level of standard that they have projected onto others and then set about trying to achieve that standard without verifying if any of it is true. They will struggle with expectations and work quality. Why? Because again, they tend to get mired in the details at the expense of the bigger picture. Number 3, perfectionism through transference. This is the person that we struggle with the most. This is a person who will put others through impossible standards because they believe that the perfectionism is what is most valuable to the outcome of a project, to the success of the individual, you, and to their own success. This is the person who can drive you crazy. It's the scenario that Emily mentions is toxic, abusive, and focused on negative feedback or even just an inability to provide praise or direction. This is the person who can create a problem for you if you work for a boss like this. It will become evident very quickly that your environment and your well-being will be impacted almost immediately. And this is the person we're going to talk about today. So you absolutely need some tools here to address this situation if you're going to be successful in this role. The first thing I want to mention here before I go any further is that working for a perfectionist boss will be a temporary situation. It may not feel that way, but things happen all the time that shift dynamics. You could leave. Your boss could leave. Your boss's boss could even leave, and that would indicate changes are coming. In the end, if you find a framework that works for you in dealing with a perfectionist boss and you use some of the tools mentioned here, you could very well work for this person for a long time. I worked for a perfectionist boss. It was annoying, but I also learned a lot about when expectations were reasonably high and when to focus on the details that made all the difference versus overcompensating on details to make up for a lack of understanding on the deliverables overall. It's a teaching moment for sure. Okay, so let's look at 3 techniques that will help you deal with someone else's perfectionism. Number 1, work on your mindset. Here's what I mean by that. You can go to work feeling frustrated every day that your boss doesn't acknowledge your accomplishments and picks at the little things, and you can let that drive whether you have a good day or a bad day. Or you could show up to work knowing that this boss cannot help themselves with their behavior and approach to getting things done. When you remove your expectations from the situation, you can now find a workable solution. As I said, I've worked for perfectionist bosses who had high expectations, and they taught me how to appreciate the details of a deliverable and why they were important. I also had a perfectionist boss who was condescending and constantly thought she was teaching me something new when she wasn't. She was petty and vindictive, and she turned out to be her own worst enemy. So, what does this mean for you? Find out who you work for and adjust accordingly. If you have a perfectionist boss who has a reasonable personality, see how you can work with that person and look at it as a challenge to manage up or manage expectations. Explain your point of view when receiving feedback and evaluate where you can have an open conversation. Position yourself as someone who's learning while you're there and see where you can create a working relationship. As I've said before, your boss is the person who can help you get promoted or even transferred to another area where you'll thrive. Use your influence to impact the relationship in terms of where you get something out of all your hard work. Now, you may be working for a narcissist perfectionist like I was. If that's the case, sure, you can work on your mindset, but also establish boundaries and an exit strategy so this person does not impact your well-being. As I said, these people are destructive, so you want to find a way to pass through any reporting structure that involves them. It took me 2 years to get away from that person, but I did it. 2 long years. Number 2, get feedback elsewhere. If you know this person's going to focus on small areas that serve little value in your career development, then make an effort to seek feedback from others. That could be someone like a mentor, a peer, a stakeholder, or a colleague. You want to take the same deliverables you discuss with your boss and present them to a neutral person with a specific ask. For example, I've been working on this deliverable for the past few weeks. I've received feedback from my boss, but I also wanted to run it past you to see where you think it was successful or where you think I did well or where it had impact on the success of the project overall. Why is this a good statement? Because you're asking for specific feedback on how your work was well received. You already discussed areas for improvement, but if that's the only feedback you get, you're going to have a hard time moving forward. You won't really have an understanding of where you're being successful or where your contributions are adding to the bigger successes of the project or the initiative. This can become problematic when it's time for a promotion and you don't have the necessary wins and case studies to justify your next big career move. Make sure you're getting a wide variety of feedback from different people to ensure you don't fall into a silo of negativity. Number 3, have an exit strategy. Yeah, I say this a lot, but you know what? So did Emily in her HBR article. That means it's worth repeating and exploring again. Here's why it's important. Like I mentioned before, working for a perfectionist might be a great learning experience. Working for a narcissistic perfectionist is not. It is a terrible experience. This is a person that can wear you down and make you miserable. He or she can create problems for your self-esteem and make you second-guess your best instincts. If you find this is the kind of person you work with, you can use these other 2 methods to build your career wins, but also start asking yourself what you can gain from this experience while you explore what else is out there for you. It took me 2 years to move away from my narcissist perfectionist boss, and when I did, it was a great relief. So what did I do while I was working there for 2 years? I did my projects, followed the processes that were documented, illustrated where I could improve upon the processes, volunteered for bigger work, while also tolerating the condescending remarks and the relentless actions of a boss who constantly tried to catch me doing something wrong. Ultimately, I made my way into a different department, and I worked with my skip-level leadership team to help me do it. I knew that boss wouldn't approve it, so I went around her using an appropriate HR response, an appropriate HR process that she could not undermine. You know, I knew I was working with a narcissist, so I had to make sure that she couldn't undermine the process I used. And it worked. Be very strategic with the people who surround you at work. Understand who they are and how they can help you, and always have a plan for where you're going next. All right, so that's it for understanding how to work with a perfectionist boss. Let me know down below in the comments if you've had experience working with a perfectionist boss and how you handled it. I'd love to hear your experiences. If you enjoyed watching and found this video helpful, please make sure to give it a big thumbs up by hitting that like button, and make sure you're subscribed to my channel so you never miss another video from me. Click the subscribe button below and have your notifications turned on as well. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.